Okay, so let's start off with the first section, which is section A. And this is about designing the context and identifying possibilities. Or as I like to call it, it's research. It's just the research you're going to do because, quite frankly, to try and invent something new that's purposeful, that is going to be taken by a client and used and appreciated, it's impossible if you don't do any research. And any designer who's actually successful will tell you that this is the core bit of our project. And actually, for the GCSE, in my experience, if this section isn't very good, then every other section is also not going to be very good, because the foundation, the structure that you're basing all the subsequent decisions on, they're going to be based on weak material. So it's impossible to come up with a grade 9 really excellent product if your research section is really weak, because you just don't have enough material to inform all of these decisions that you're going to make down the line. So although this section's only worth 10 marks, it pretty much sets out the standard for every other section. So if you get like 4 marks in this section, you should expect to be getting below half in every other section in the folder, and that's just the way it tends to go. Okay, so what's in section A? Well, basically it's research. You'll start off, you'll have 3 choices depending on the school you're at. I know some schools tend to just give you the brief you're doing, but they release 3 concepts, and they can just be a word. For example, one year it's been disability or sustainability, the one year it was teenage lifestyle. So it's very, very vague. It's really vague, and the first thing that I would do is I would mind map it. It's a really strong skill for a designer to explore that concept. Some people call it context analysis, some people call it a mind map or a conceptual challenge. What it basically is just getting everything out, your first impressions, your first thoughts. And you can do this collaboratively. Sometimes one of the things I like to do as a teacher is get students that are doing the same context to discuss it. Get some marker pens around a table and just mind map on a big table. And that's a bit of collaborative research, really. Lots of people coming up with ideas. What do we mean by that? Here's some examples of some good sort of mind maps to get us started. So the next step, the next stage of what I would do is I would probably then focus in on some key bits that have interested me or have piqued my interest. And I'll do a bit of internet research, just stats, just figures. Now remember to link where you've got that information from. Don't just copy and paste stuff, because it's plagiarism. So just remember, it's important to kind of, if you find something on the internet that's important, then do a little hyperlink underneath it. Okay, so quite often, sometimes the weaker research is people will do one type of research per page, and they'll just go through the mill of doing research. So here's some researches: a mind map, internet research, a mood board, a user profile, product analysis, questionnaires, surveys, user trip observation, and 10 types of research that you can do there. If you've got 10 pages and they're really quite like sparse and you just fill in space, just bear in mind, the guideline is 20 pages of A3 and you've used up 10 pages on quite, weak research. So I'll be trying to cram that into more. I probably wouldn't want more than 4 slides if you're doing this on the computer of really meaningful research. So on slide 1, for me, I'd like to see something like a mind map that really explores the context, and then focusing in on a couple of those elements and really doing some detailed internet research to find stuff out about it. And then I'd maybe do a little summary to explain what am I going to do next? What's this led me to think of? Right, okay, so the second page, what we should do is we need to start focusing things. So at the start, you kind of do this massive dump of information and you've got all this stuff and it's really kind of fuzzy and out of focus. And what section A should do should start to narrow things down to a point. And it's a bit like jigsaw puzzle, it should start to focus in. So the next step is I'd probably be looking for a client at this point. I need to know who my target audience is. Before I do any other research or any other decisions, I really need to narrow down who am I designing this for. So a user profile, bit of information about my client, maybe this is a good place to do a mood board as well about what my client likes or dislikes, or maybe just some existing products that my client uses that I've identified. And it's probably a good opportunity to do an interview or a questionnaire with my client to identify a problem or a gap in the market that's linked to the context of what we're talking about. So for my second page, again, I'd expect it to be quite busy with lots of information about my target market and specifically problems or products that they'll be interested in, and questionnaires, interviews, user profile, mood boards, that kind of research being chucked onto the page. And again, here's some good examples. Hopefully they'll be I'll put them up on the screen. Okay, now I've identified a client, I've also probably identified some existing products, and what a great opportunity now to do a product analysis. Product analysis is a really key element of research because other designers have already made products, haven't they? And they've done all that research and they've been through all that process, and we can learn a lot by looking at what other people have done. So I'd probably want a whole page now of existing products with detailed product analysis. You can use Cafe Q, Access FM. I won't go into those, just Google them or ask your teacher, but you can use those things to help think of all the different things you can be analysing. Important point to note as well, in the actual design technology exam, quite often you get asked to analyse a product, but they don't say it like that. They'll say, analyse this playground, for example. And what they're really asking you to do is to use that Access FM or Cafe Q to analyse different elements of that product. And that's really all they're looking for. So this is a good opportunity for a bit of revision as well in your folder. So a product analysis, and I'd probably do 3 or 4 products that link to my client. If you're doing a product analysis based on a top hat, a mattress, and an iPhone, and none of these are linked to any of the research you've already done, then that entire section is wasted time. It's just a product analysis for the sake of a product analysis, and that's not good research. You should be making sure that everything you do links to what you're going to do next. Your product analysis should be really focused on existing products that your client already uses, or maybe products that they could use based on the problem you found. But it should be linked to the research you've already done. The next thing then, the final slide, really optional at this point, but I'd quite like to see something like a user trip or an observation of my client. And this is really going to help identify the problem or the gap in the market or the thing. Like, it should focus all of your research should have led you to an idea, a product, something that you want to make. You might not know what it looks like or how it works, or you might have a really clear idea at this stage, and both are fine. And so a decent user trip or an observation normally would just help to kind of solidify what that concept is and what it is that you're hoping to achieve. I'd look to summarise my research into nice little short concise statements, and in terms of any other research, it's worth pointing out that section A goes on throughout the entire folder. So there will be research that you come to later on, and that sort of research is testing, more internet research, or looking at manufacturing processes or types of components, and that's again, it's additional research, it's ongoing research. But for the first bit, section A, mind map, user profile, mood boards, questionnaires or interviews, product analysis, user trip observations, any of those kind of researches I'd expect to see. A nice, concise, 3 to 4 slides maximum kind of exploration of this concept, and it should really tell us a story. Like, it should tell us your starting point, one word or one idea, and all of the research as you focused in to arrive at this point. And this point is, that's a problem or that's an opportunity, and that would be the end of section A. Okay, so that's section A, and then we're going to move into section B.